Hello, everybody. I'm Stu McFarland. I'm Vice President of Distributor Online Strategy here at Herbalife. And today with me, I have a very special guest who's going to talk to us about some important subjects as we approach the holidays. Many of you know Susan Bowerman. Susan has been a face around Herbalife for many years now, and many of you probably know her from the Discover Good Nutrition blog that Susan hosts. Susan has quite a background. She's a registered dietitian and board-certified specialist in sports dietetics. She has a degree in biology from the University of Colorado, go Buffaloes, and a graduate degree in food science and nutrition from Colorado State University. Susan has an unbelievable range of experience and some knowledge that we can tap in on today's call. All the way from weight management to sports nutrition. And she's had a practice here in Los Angeles. She used to have a private practice in Beverly Hills. In fact, we were just chatting about some of these. Herbalife distributors and your clients. And unlike Facebook, which is conversations about anything and everything, iChange is designed specifically for you to talk to your clients about nutrition, about fitness, and about health, and to help guide people to a healthier lifestyle. iChange has a number of tools. Some of the more popular tools on the site are trackers, and they're the kind of trackers that allow you to enter your food intake every day so you can understand your caloric intake, your macronutrient intake, and it helps give you some guidelines on how you should be managing your nutrition. You can also manage your exercise, your sleep, and there's even trackers for things like your my mother will do. We will walk into the house and every table will be covered with food, with sweets, and I will go crazy and my kids will go crazy, and then it's generally downhill from there all the way through New Year's.
Well, that's what mothers do, don't they? Yeah. Well, it's like Thanksgiving is, is sort of the start of a very long weekend, and then you've got all these holidays, and then January 1st is sort of the ultimate Monday when everybody starts their diet again. But we're going to try to, talk a little bit about how to make that first Monday not so terrible next year.
Terrific. Well, for those of you that haven't been on these webinars before, Susan will give her presentation, and then after she talks, we'll make this interactive. We'll give you the opportunity to talk to Susan directly and ask her questions. Ask her questions about holiday nutrition, about nutrition in general. And to do so, you can dial *1 at any time on your touch-tone phone. That will put you in
and lack of sleep. And I think sometimes what happens at holiday times is we get so stressed out. We want everything to be perfect. We spend way too much time sometimes trying to make everything just exactly the way it should be. We don't get enough sleep, and that, of course, can impact your health, and it can also impact how you sort of get through your day, how much exercise you get, what you choose to eat, because you're lacking sleep. Because we're so busy and because we're stressed out, sometimes we let exercise kind of slide, but that's really, really important for stress reduction. And this is one of the things, too, as we talk, I want to really talk about why these iChange tools are so valuable for you all the time, but particularly at this time of the year, because you can really keep track of this stuff. And the last thing is there's goodies all over the place. You know, I actually wrote about this last year on the blog, and I was noticing how every place I went over holiday time, I went into the bank, I went into the dry cleaners. It didn't matter what errand I was running. Every place I went, there were candy canes and cookies and stuff everywhere when you're just out and about doing your holiday shopping and doing your errands. So we've got a lot of potential areas. That's one way. The other thing is, of course, we have here in the U.S. this week, we have what's now called Thanksgiving Day. It used to be called Thanksgiving Dinner, but now we call it Thanksgiving Day, and that's because people really now like to spend the entire day eating. It's not about just the one meal. There are a lot of people who plan their first meal kind of early in the day so that they can have their second meal of all those delicious leftovers later in the day. So a lot of people spend the entire day eating, and it's been estimated that, you know, people can easily eat 5,000 calories on Thanksgiving Day, okay? So about 2,500 extra calories from what you would normally eat, let's say, during a day. As I just mentioned, you're at work, you're out running errands. It's really easy to just grab little extras. When I had my private practice and I was in the doctor's office, I always used to laugh because here I am in a doctor's office. People are supposed to be healthy, and all the patients would bring in things like big tins of caramel popcorn, and you'd walk into the employee kitchen and you'd grab a couple handfuls. brunch, slice of quiche, that nice, heavy, eggy, cheesy dish in a pie crust, and a cinnamon roll and a cup of eggnog, 1,500 calories for one meal. And, as I said, a lot of people stop exercising during this period, which is a disaster, because if you stop walking every day for a month, that's 5,250 extra calories that are going to go straight to your hips. So the grand total, we actually overshot our mark, 18,250 calories, so we've got more than 5 pounds just from those extras. So think about where you are in that schema. But right now, let's talk about some things that we can do. So I'm going to talk about some very simple strategies that you can use, not just now, I mean all the time these are good strategies, but really think about this as you're going ahead. The first strategy is to control how much you eat. Now this is, again, one of the ways that iChange can help you a lot, because when you keep a food diary and you know what you're eating every day, you can really kind of stay ahead of your calories. What a lot of people do is they use the diary ahead of time. So what they'll do is they'll write down what they're going to eat for the day and just sort of use it as a checklist. Secondly, you've got to think about controlling portions, which is really tough to do when you're faced with buffets and parties. But if you practice at home, if you know your portion sizes, if you're able to use and they always had fruit. So I was good. I was always good for breakfast, and in a lot of cases I was good for lunch. So controlling how much you eat, keeping track, using that food diary on iChange to kind of keep track of what you're doing, great strategy. Second one, think before you drink. Now, I'm talking about liquid calories here because we do tend to drink a little bit more in terms of liquids at this time of the year. Staying hydrated is very, very important. You may think that because the weather's turned colder that it's not as important, but when the air gets cold, it gets dry, you're still, you may not notice it, but you're still perspiring and you need to stay hydrated. So do that with calorie-free beverages as much as you can. And even non-alcoholic drinks can add up. So you have to think about that too. If you're drinking fruit juices or fruit drinks or any of these other caloric liquids, even if there's no alcohol, they can add up pretty quickly, especially if you're not keeping track. This is, again, where your food diary can help you. And also there's a tracker for keeping track of how much water you drink on iChange, which I encourage you to do. If you're going to choose alcoholic beverages, keep in mind impact your weight, for one thing, because it's hard to make time to stay with your exercise program. So be sure to carve out that time as much as you can and stay with your regular regimen. You're going to feel much better for it. Because what we tend to do when we get stressed is a lot of people turn to food, but it really doesn't reduce your stress. In fact, it makes it worse because you get stressed out because you've been eating. And lighten up. It's holidays, it's supposed to be fun. Everything doesn't really have to be perfect. So if you can just kind of keep that mantra going in your head, it might be helpful to you to keep your stress down a little bit. And the other thing, and I know this isn't nutritional, but I'm bringing it up because, as I said, people do eat when they get stressed out. Keep track of your spending, because it's one of the biggest stressors of the season, aside from just, being with family and traveling and not getting enough sleep. And sleep's important. There's also a tracker on iChange to keep track of how many hours you have. So don't skimp. Be sure that you get time to get plenty of sleep. If you need to take extra rest on the into that party. So that's a good strategy anytime you know that you're going to be going out for a meal. And then the other thing is to fill up on the lowest calorie foods first. So if you have a buffet, go for things like that picture you see on the bottom right there. Go for the veggies, go for fruits if they're around, go for the low-fat proteins as much as you can, and try to fill up on those first before you start getting into the higher calorie goodies. The other thing I tell my patients is to get picky. One of the things that happens is that when you're surrounded with all of these goodies at holiday time, it's so easy to eat them. But, if there are things around that you can have anytime you want them, I would say don't waste your calories on those. On the other hand, if, your mom or your grandmother or somebody's making that special cookie that you only get to eat once a year, I think it's worth to save a few calories for those special foods. But don't waste them on the things that you can get any time. Be picky about that. And as you're getting picky, as I said, try picking some lighter ingredients for your holiday foods too. Everybody is overeating during this time period. So if you even have guests, and if you're taking some of your traditional holiday meals and lightening them up a little bit, a lot of people actually appreciate that. So you might want to try that this year, is making things a little bit differently and making them lighter. And then have it your way. This is a strategy that we often recommend to people, is just try to pick the lighter foods over the calorie-dense ones and really try to pick up on those foods first and fill up on those. So lastly, let's talk a little bit about partying hardy but partying healthy as well, because this is the area where most of us get into trouble. If you're going to a potluck where you're going to be bringing a dish and other people are going to be bringing a dish and you're all going to be sharing, try bringing something that's reasonably healthy. As I said, people sometimes appreciate having some healthier, lighter foods available instead of everything just being very, very loaded down with calories. That's a great thing to do for a party. Buffet tables are really tough. There's lots of research that's been done on how people actually behave when they go to when they go to buffets. So the best thing to do is go take a little tour, go around the table once, kind of see what's there, and decide ahead of time which foods you're going to choose. Because if you just start at one end and you start going, you're going to end up filling up on all kinds of stuff. But if you kind of look at it first, I think the last thing to say is important, because you are going to overdo it from time to time. Everyone does. And if you overdo it at one meal, don't make a bad situation worse. Don't just decide, well, that was a bad meal, I've blown it for the whole day. Don't just turn that situation into a much worse situation for the rest of the day. Just learn from your mistakes and move on. So I want to stop there. I want to just say, too, as we go into this season, it's important that you enjoy yourself and try to keep the focus not so much on the food, but remember that the focus at this time of the year is really on your family and on your friends and having a good time. It's important for you to take care of yourself. You can't really have a good time with family and friends if you're not rested, if you're not getting your exercise, if you're not eating as well as you should, and if you're not staying hydrated. And again, all of these iChange tools can really help you to meet those goals, not just during the holidays, but all year round. And try to maintain your usual eating routine and activity schedule as much as you can. You know, you don't want to just say, well, nothing's going to happen between now and January. And, you know, those people are the ones who really end up picking up not just 5 pounds, but it could be 10 or 12 by the time the new year rolls around. So enjoy yourself. Have a wonderful holiday season. And I'm going to stop the formal comments there, and I guess we'll
Now is your opportunity to ask Susan a question. So to do so, go ahead and dial *1 on your phone, and we'll take the calls as they come in. As we've been sitting here, we've been getting some Facebook messages and some tweets. So let me just read off some of the questions that have been coming in, Susan. So I'm going to pronounce this name incorrectly. It's from Funin Kozi. The question is fasting good for the body?
That's a funny question. I mean, at least at this time of the year, it's a funny question to be thinking about fasting. But it's an interesting one because I actually do get asked about this a lot. The reason that people fast, well, let me put it this way. There's a lot of reasons that people fast. Sometimes they do it as a way of sort of, they want to maybe cleanse, or sometimes they do it as a way to jumpstart a diet. There are certainly religious reasons that people fast, but let's put those aside for a moment and just talk about just general fasting.
Breastfeeding her child.
Okay, Akile, that's a when women are breastfeeding, they actually are dieting in a way, because the calorie cost of nursing a baby, it's been estimated that it's when you're full-time nursing, it's about 500 calories a day that it costs your body to produce breast milk. So if you think about it, when we put women on a weight loss diet, we're often aiming for about a 500 calorie a day deficit from their diet. So essentially what happens is when you're breastfeeding a baby, that's that 500 calorie deficit is going into the production of breast milk. So it's a natural way to diet. it's not usually a good idea for breastfeeding women to try to also cut back their calories too significantly, because you want to, again, keep up your energy to take care of your newborn, and you also want to have the nutrition that you need to be able to produce, high-quality breast milk and to be able to feed the baby. So what I would say is I wouldn't really start dieting. Once your baby starts on solid foods and you start transitioning the baby off of the breast and onto solid foods, then you can start thinking about making some dietary changes. But generally speaking, women who are breastfeeding find that so your body can take care of anything that comes in. What happens a lot of times with many of these detox programs is they're quite aggressive. So they may have strong diuretics, things that make you urinate, so you lose a lot of fluid. Sometimes they will include laxatives. So again, you're kind of clearing out your digestive tract, but at a significant cost, because you're losing fluid, you're losing important salts from your body. So I'm just not a big fan of these cleansing programs. The reason that you lose, of course, is because you're losing a lot of water, so you're quite dehydrated, and of course you're not taking in any food, so you don't have just the weight of the food itself in your system. But those, you might lose 5 pounds in a day or two, but as soon as you start eating and drinking, you're going to just put it right back on again. So I really am not a fan of them, and particularly, as I said, if there's strong cleanses with diuretics and with laxatives, I really encourage people not to do them.
So how should people think about it? I hear it a lot before weddings, right? That people want to get into a dress that they bought. They want recommend with my Formula One shake.
Okay. Sandeep, this is a common question because, it's interesting. You look at breakfast foods around the world, and typical breakfasts do tend to be kind of high in carbohydrate. Here we eat a lot of bread or we eat cereal. Other countries, people eat bread products or they might eat rice in the morning. And these starchy foods are, they certainly fill up your stomach, but without the protein that you need, they just don't sustain you very long. And so you find if you eat a high-carb breakfast, you get hungry. And so chances are you're going to start snacking. So what we try to do is encourage people to get more protein in the morning, number one, because it's going to give them more staying power. So, for example, if someone's using a Formula One shake in the morning, which already has some protein in the shake itself, and if you're mixing it with milk, you're going to get protein. Some people will add additional protein powder to that. So we commonly will tell people to, use some personalized protein powder, the Formula 3, if they have that available. The other thing that people do sometimes is they'll just have something in addition to their shake that's high in not my primary area since we're talking about food, but let's get into this just for a minute, because stress eating is a problem for people, because, as I said, what a lot of people tend to do is get stressed, eat, and what that does, though, is it just ends up spiraling, because then you get really stressed out because you ate. It's like, oh, what have I done? I'm trying to be so good, and so it just spirals completely out of control. So there's a couple strategies, at least in terms of eating. I think the first one is, take that deep breath. Say to yourself, I'm going to wait 5 minutes before I eat anything, because, number one, the urge tends to go away. And in that 5 minutes, start thinking about something else that you can do. So you're starting to feel the stress. You see the box of candy. It's like, okay, I'm going to wait. And, take a walk around the block. Take a cleansing breath. Get down on the floor and just do some stretches if you have to. Though, any kind of activity is going to be very important. If you're in a stressful situation with family members, you may just have to excuse yourself and leave the room for a minute. I mean, I think that it's really important to be in control, because it's too easy to let the situation control you, and then the eating starts. So, before you grab that
encouragement to get through the holidays.
That's true. And the other thing is that's probably the best thing that you can do when you're feeling stressed and you're going to grab the candy, is maybe you just log on to iChange right then and there, because, anything that you can do, even if it's just a question of putting it down and saying, I'm feeling really stressed right now, and acknowledging it, sometimes that can start to reduce it a little bit.
I've heard you talk in the past about food journaling, and I wonder if that's something that, for people that haven't done it before, could test during the holidays, because the psychology around it, as you've described it to me before, is really interesting. Once you start jotting down everything that you eat, you become more aware of what it is that you're consuming.
Absolutely.
And it becomes easier to control what you're eating.
It does. And I think the other thing is, I've had patients who used to write down things very dutifully, but they would do it all at the end of the day when the deed was done. So, and which doesn't really help you. And I think the whole idea of journaling is that as your day goes by, you can see exactly where you are. And what's nice about that is that even if you slip up a little bit and you ate a little something, a lot of times you can still salvage the day unless it was just a complete disaster. So that's one way to use the tool. And as I said, on the day and how well they're meeting all of those nutritional goals as well.
Interesting. Okay, we're getting some questions in about competing diets. So there's lots of competing diets out there, as we know. I mean, Google diet, and you'll see that there are thousands and thousands.
Yes, there are.
So what makes Herbalife product or an Herbalife program different than other programs that are out there?
Okay, that's a great question and it comes up frequently because there's always what I call the diet du jour.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something that's popular. We had low carb diets for a while. We had high carbohydrate diets for a while. We've had all sorts of things. One of the things about Herbalife that makes it really unique is the fact that it's using not only the protein as a wonderful strategy for controlling your hunger, but also this meal replacement approach. And the use of meal replacements has been well studied and documented in many, many, many scientific studies. There's over 35 papers that have been published on the use of meal replacements for weight management. And basically what a meal replacement does is it's giving you the nutrition that you need for that meal, but it's calorie controlled, and that's done for you. Because you know as well as I do, because you listen to what you hear the
Right, and it seems like that could be a strategy we could employ during the holidays too.
Absolutely.
Doing the Formula One shake or other meal replacements during maybe the breakfast and the lunches, especially if you're preparing for a big dinner in the evening.
Absolutely, and this again, when you start looking again at maintenance, I know we're looking ahead to post-holidays, but again, many of my patients, once they've lost the weight, they continue to use that strategy, so they'll continue to use a shake every morning. It's almost like a reminder. I started my day off right, so I know the rest of the day is going to go really well. So it's not just for the weight loss, but for the maintenance strategy as well.
All right, we have a question from Trudy from South Africa.
Uh-huh.
My husband adds rolled oats to his shakes. Is it too much carbs added, or is it more beneficial in lowering his cholesterol?
Oh, interesting. Okay, Trudy, that's a great question. I've heard of people doing this, adding rolled oats to their shake. There's a couple things I want to say about this. When you're adding rolled oats, you are adding oatmeal basically before it's been cooked. So you're adding a significant number of calories. So I would keep that in mind. If he needs the
supporter of iChange and has been taking part in a lot of the design around the nutrition tracking on the site. So we really appreciate you coming in.
It's just an ongoing process. So I would love to see all the changes and all the new tools that you have on your site. And I think that it's just you've made it simple for people, but you've given them the things that they really need because it's encompassing all of this. Sometimes with weight management we focus too much on calories. And we don't focus enough, as I said, on the quality of the calories. We don't focus on all those other pieces that impact our weight, how well we sleep, how much exercise we're getting, are we staying hydrated enough, how stressed are we. And so you've really hit on the really key components, not just for weight management, but just for anybody who wants to live a healthier life. And so I give you a lot of credit because I think you've got a tremendous tool here that people can use.
Well, that's great. And for those of you that are not yet on iChange, I encourage you to try it. It's 100% free.
Yes.
It's available in the U.S., Canada, Jamaica, all of the European markets right now, and we're on our way to getting it out to other parts of the world. If you're an iChange distributor, just go to iChange.com and click on the green Coach registration button, and just follow the steps to get registered. If you are not an Herbalife distributor, the best thing to do is, if you have a distributor, talk to them about iChange, and then they'll instruct you on how to sign on. Or you can go to iChange.com, click the orange Join for Free button, and you can find your distributor through there. So, Susan, with that, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Have a happy and nutritious holiday season.
You too. Yes, you too. I hope not to see too much more of you in January. I don't think that'll happen.
I think not too.
Thank you.
All
and
right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.